Evening and welcome. The Communication and Stakeholder Engagement Committee is excited to host tonight's community conversation about virtual learning. We want to hear from you about what's working and what isn't and answer your questions. I want to remind everyone that this is not the proper avenue to address specific student or employee matters. We encourage you to use the appropriate channels to address any issues or complaints about those topics. We also ask that those who choose to participate in the YouTube chat keep your comments constructive. Many of you who are watching submitted questions ahead of time. We received questions in English and in Spanish. We will try to answer as many as possible in the time that we have, as well as the questions that we received tonight in the YouTube chat. We will make every effort to answer your questions, and although we will not have all the answers to your questions, it is important that we hear them as well as your feedback. You may not always be happy with the answer you receive, but it will be an honest answer. I'm looking forward to this evening's conversation and appreciate your participation. At this time, I'd like to welcome Nick Asante to his first Communications Committee meeting. I will ask Nick and my other committee members to introduce themselves, and then we will begin, starting with Ms. Mondrowski.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Rebecca Svondrowski. I represent District 2 on the Board of Education.
Carla.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carla Silvestri, school board member at large.
And Mr. Asante.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Asante, the 43rd student member of the board. Thank you for the warm welcome, and I want to give a shout out to all of the students who submitted questions and are tuning in tonight. I look forward to the event.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Derek Turner to introduce himself and give us an idea of what to expect tonight. Derek?
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. And thank you, committee members. My name is Derek Turner. I'm the Chief of Engagement, Innovation, and Operations for Montgomery County Public Schools. And we're excited to be here with you this evening to talk about how we're engaging and communicating with our community in these very difficult times. So our presentation tonight, we're going to start with how we're using a new technology to help engage our parents more directly through a system called Parent View. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how we're engaging our hard-to-reach families and some feedback we got from our families, our students, and our staff from a survey we released in mid-September. So now I'm going to turn it over to Pete Cevanini to talk about our technology platform for engagement.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. My name is Pete Cevanini. I'm the Associate Superintendent for Technology and Innovation, and I want to update you briefly on the Synergy My MCPS Classroom gradebook issue that we've gotten a lot of feedback on. There has been a lot of confusion about My MCPS Classroom and Synergy, and I have two slides that show the difference between the two. If you could put up the first slide, please. For Synergy, it is the gradebook which holds all of the student information as well. So, for example, it holds things like student addresses, transcripts, attendance, report cards, and grades. It also will soon hold things like athletic registration, health room information, and even high school consortia applications. Next slide, please. My MCPS Classroom is where students and their families go for classwork, and it is their virtual classroom environment. It has most of their assignments, feedback on those assignments, and course materials. It did have a gradebook feature, but it caused tremendous confusion among our students and our parents because the synchronization of the two wasn't happening. So we turned off the gradebook feature of My MCPS Classroom, and because Synergy is the gradebook of record. Back to you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Pete. And so I think it's really important to know that Parent View is the tool that all of our parents should use. It's such an important tool to engage. You can push messages out. We can push messages out through it to get to our families. But families can also talk to the schools through this tool. And it's helping us connect. So we're asking every family to please use Parent View. We know that there's plenty of ways to reach your teachers. You can use email. Some people like text messages. Some people think tweets are the best way to talk to their teachers. We're just asking you, leverage Parent View. That's the best way for us to connect with you and make sure your data is current and make sure that we are engaging with you deeply throughout this process. So now I want to quickly talk about how we're engaging our community during this time. As we know, the traditional methods that we are familiar with, a lot of door knocking, going out to the communities, having outdoor events, inviting people in. We just can't do that given the health conditions in our country and in our community. But we are still responsible for making sure that all of our family members, all of our students, and all of our staff remain engaged in the work of our system and the work we're doing on behalf of students. So I want to turn it over to my colleague, Everett Davis, who talk a little bit about how we're reaching out to disengaged families and hard to reach families. And then we'll talk a little bit more about feedback we've gotten from our community. Everett?
So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Turner, for this opportunity, as well as to the board members and to the families that are online with us this evening. My name is Everett Davis, and I serve as the Director of Student, Family, and School Services, as well as the International Admissions and Enrollment Office. And once again, it is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I know that's a fairly large title, but I'll just break it down a little bit for you this evening. My primary responsibilities include community engagement, community partnerships, as well as family engagement. And for that, I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with all of our families, but particularly those that are the hardest to reach. And so I wanted to share with you, rather than me sharing with you their voice, I thought it was important for you to hear directly from some of them. You will hear throughout our section from at least 4 of our parents who have volunteered to speak with you and share their voice about their experience, as well as some of the highlights, the successes, as well as some of the challenges that they have experienced as they navigate this pandemic. So if we could just pause for a moment. These were 4 of our parents. You'll hear from 2 at the beginning and 2 a little bit later in our section together. But these are parents who have benefited from the supports provided from our colleagues throughout MCPS. So we'll just pause for a moment if we could roll that video.
As a parent, administering online learning is challenging, especially for parents of younger children. As parents, we have to be on top of technology, schedules, and breaks during classes while helping them focus during Zoom classes and ensuring children are up to date on the work assigned. The upside of all of this is that I have seen my children grow to be more independent. However, the social aspect of person-to-person interaction, especially during recess and lunchtime, is lacking. While most or all of the academic needs are being met, this is a new way of life, and especially for the younger children being unable to connect with their friends via telephone or social media. It would be beneficial if we could resume recess or lunch hours via Zoom, where kids share virtual lunchrooms and play together at lunch.
Clases virtuales pues ha sido como un nuevo mundo, descubriendo una nueva etapa para nosotros en el aprendizaje. Las clases virtuales nos han unido mucho más como familia. Nos hemos comunicado a través del portal para padres, que me parece una excelente opción y un medio de comunicación muy bueno. Sugiero, si fuera posible, que las tareas que les van a estar dejando en casa fueran asignadas desde el momento en que termina la jornada de educación virtual, ¿verdad? Para que los chicos pues puedan estar ya con más disponibilidad de tiempo el resto del día y poder planificar en qué hora ellos van a hacer su tarea.
So once again, I want to thank our parents for sharing with us so that you could hear some of the voices from our families. And I did just want to revisit what I shared at the beginning, that this is a collaborative effort us providing supports. I mentioned the PCC, Parent Community Coordinator, also working very closely with our PPWs, or pupil personnel workers, as well as our ETCs. I know a lot of acronyms, our ESOL transition counselors, to really provide supports to our hardest to reach families. But I wanted to spend the rest of my time, short amount of time that I have to share with you this evening, to share really how Mr. Turner said at the beginning, how we really had to reimagine. COVID has brought us the opportunity to do that, to be more creative and innovative. And one of those areas in which we had to do that was with our Parent Academy. I know we've spoken about it, and hopefully you've heard about it before, our Parent Academy workshops, where we really had to reimagine, and we call it the Parent Academy to go. The idea is that we are meeting our families where they are in this virtual environment. And there are three main pieces to this Parent Academy. I would encourage you to go to our website. All you have to do is type in Parent Academy on our MCPS website, and we'll take you directly there. But just want to share the three main tenets of our Parent Academy to go. One being the traditional workshops that you may be accustomed to, where we have a topic, we have a presenter, and we provide the information on a specific topic that we have predetermined. So those are our kind of the first idea, the first part one, if you will. Then the second tier of our Parent Academy to go are virtual chats, where we have a loose topic, but it's really an opportunity, as the name implies, for our parents to come together and to discuss an item that's on their mind, a challenge that they might be having, seeking support from additional other parents who are in the virtual room. So it's more of a loosely, it's still a formal and organized event, but it's more loosely available for parents to have the conversation with one another. And then our item number three, our part three, are our technology how-to sessions, how-to videos. And as we have said, navigating this virtual environment, of course, requires a certain level of understanding of the technology. So having those supports in place that are multilingual, all of these sessions are offered in multilingual opportunities, and they're also archived. I know I spoke about the website again, but I can't say it enough because we do archive. We recognize that if the videos or if these particular workshops or chats are not available at a convenient time for our families, that they can go back and reference them when they are most convenient. So again, just wanted to make sure that I share that information. Ms. Wilson-Sadler, Danielle Wilson-Sadler, is our project lead for the Parent Academy, as well as an instructional specialist in our office. And her information is also posted on that Parent Academy website. So with that, I'm going to pause and I will turn it back over to Mr. Turner.
Thanks, Everett. So I think it's important before we talk about the survey data is to first just frame out that this is not an easy experience for anyone. But I can say from my experience of popping into classrooms and talking to families that our teachers and our staff are doing the absolute best they can to meet the needs of our students. It's different. It's like learning a whole new language overnight to make this happen. Sure, you're still speaking, but how you're doing it makes a huge difference. And so there are going to be bumps. And we want to learn from those bumps rather than hide from them and just wait for this the pandemic to end. We're taking the opportunity to hear from our families, our students, and our staff to figure out how we can make improvements to our virtual learning model. Because at the end of the day, we do know that this might stick around in some capacity for a long time. We've learned that virtual learning does meet the needs of a certain group of students, and we want to have that available, if possible, for a long time. So we need to know how to make improvements where we can, what works and what doesn't work, and even for the short term, making sure that our students have what they need, and where we can make adjustments, we can make adjustments. So first slide, please. So we opened our survey in mid-September to parents, students, and staff. And we're going to start with a parent look. We received almost 28,000 responses from our parents across 8 languages. And again, this doesn't necessarily match up to the demographics of our school community, but we are trying new techniques to reach our folks to get them to respond to surveys. What we're seeing is an uptick in responses from our Hispanic Latino community, but we know that percentage doesn't actually reflect the current enrollment. So we're going to continue to take more steps to improve that outreach and to make sure that we hear their voices. But we do know that we heard from a large portion of our families who are interested in responding to the survey. So next slide. We have a lot of data points from our families, but I wanted to just highlight a few in the moments we have together. That 74% agreed that they find it easy to connect with individual teachers about their child if they need. And that's important because while this is different, the technology has allowed the teachers and the students and the parents to engage continuously during this opportunity. One of the things that we'll continue to prove is try to figure that last 25%. And that's, again, encouraging people to use Parent View and the other tools we've already developed so that there's one streamlined place to get in touch with your teachers and your school. We also found that there was a lot of interest in how Wednesdays were being utilized. As you know, Wednesday is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous time for students both at the elementary and secondary level. So we asked a question around how Wednesdays are working for families, and 57% of families agreed that the format for Wednesdays support their learning for their child. That's just slightly over half, so that also means that about half of our families feel that it doesn't work. And so we're going to take that information back, and you'll hear from staff members in the coming board meetings about how we're going to examine that time to make sure it meets the needs of our students. We also found that 55% agreed that the format for Wednesdays was allows for a child to check in with his or her teacher. And that really reflects the secondary level where students have the afternoon to do check-ins with their teachers and really engage. And I think that's, again, an important opportunity that we have in the MCPS schedule for virtual learning. So next slide. So we also heard some of the challenges that our families are facing on behalf of their kids, and things we shouldn't be surprised to hear, that there are distractions at home, that parents are having a hard time balancing supporting their kid and doing their own job. And of course, there is a lot of screen time in virtual learning, and the desire to have more frequent screen breaks and time away from the computer. So we're taking all of this in mind as we're looking forward to the second quarter in MCPS virtual learning. So next slide. So we also surveyed students, which I think is important to hear directly from them about their experience. And we heard from nearly 8,500 students about their virtual experience across a wide range of demographics. So next slide, please. And we heard from students, not surprisingly, that a greater number thought that connecting to the internet was slightly easy or very easy. Our generation of students are digital natives, so they've had more experience working with technology than us adults. But it does prove that the students can engage through virtual learning, and that is the tools aren't the necessary barrier. We also found that distance learning technology is slightly easy or very easy. Again, the tools themselves are being utilized by our students relatively well. The things that we actually are concerned about are the social emotional well-being of our students, where 41% of our students said they felt quite satisfied or extremely satisfied with that social emotional support. And we continue to make changes every day with outreach. We have our student wellness teams that you've heard about at previous board meetings that are contacting students. We have our counselors on standby. Again, they are doing a yeoman's work around the clock to meet the needs of our students during these two pandemics that we're currently facing. So can we go to the next slide? I think it's also really important to dig in deeper as we look at the students who feel like they're not connected at all to their other students. We continue to hear stories of students who have their cameras off and don't feel like they're part of their school community. Each day, our teachers are making progress. More and more cameras are going to end up being turned on, but we know that this has been a challenge for our schools and a challenge for our students just feeling at home in the virtual environment. So next slide, please. In addition to our families and our students, we also surveyed our instructional staff and our non-instructional staff, but today we're going to focus on the instructional staff responses. Roughly 6,000 of our instructional staff responded to these questions, the bulk of which were at the elementary level, followed by high school and special schools, then middle school. Can we go to the next slide, please? So one of the important things that we're learning is that there's more work to be done here with our distance learning around the tools. 46%, a little less than half, said they were having difficulty with the learning tools. So we are continuing to provide professional development opportunities for our staff to utilize these tools, get more experience, and where we can provide upgrades, including things like Nearpod to enhance the experience for our students in the schools. Another important thing is that there's some positive news here. 73% reported they were happy with the frequency of communication from the school leadership. In the best of times, we hope that that's 100%, but we know that there is that sense of separation from the school leadership and the teachers, but our principals are clearly doing a great job reaching out to their staff and making sure they feel involved and engaged in the decision process and feel supported. So we take that as a positive sign. We also see good news that 80% indicated most students or almost all students participate in virtual class in the past week. And again, we're seeing more and more students turn on those cameras, participating, raising their hand and commenting. But we also know that there are some students who just don't feel comfortable in virtual or have a schedule conflict due to a family situation. And that's why we have the recorded lessons available for 72 hours for our students to engage in the learning opportunity. If they've missed the class or didn't feel comfortable engaging in class, that information, that experience is there for them to continue to learn and to prevent any further learning loss during this period of crisis. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Ms. Wolf, and if there are any questions, or move on to the next section around community conversation. Actually, I apologize. There are two more videos for us to watch from our family members, and community members about how they're experiencing MCPS. So we thought it'd be important for you to see those videos again, how people are experiencing virtual learning. So thank you.
No es lo mismo que cuando van a la escuela, porque me han bajado un poquito, pero estoy tratando de hacer lo mejor que pueda como madre. No es fácil para mí porque tampoco sé hablar mucho inglés, pero con ellos sí están bien, han mejorado bastante. Yo me siento pues tranquila porque tengo a mis hijos en casa y pues saludables, lo más que todo. Si yo les mando un mensaje y les digo a ellos, yo tengo una inquietud por preguntar por mi hijo, tan rápidamente me contestan, son unos excelentes maestros.
Ha sido difícil para mí, para mi hijo también, porque tenía que acoplar a las clases y a las actividades. Muchas veces no entiendo cómo hacer las actividades, cómo poder ayudarle. Ha sido difícil, pero hemos ido aprendiendo cada día más y solo es de tener paciencia y de poner algo de nuestra ayuda para poder aprender y que nuestros hijos aprendan también. No, yo sé que no ha sido fácil ni para uno como padre ni para ellos de un día para otro estar experimentando, tener las clases así. No es igual como que estemos en persona recibiendo las clases.
Thank you. So again, that's a representation of how our families experience virtual learning. So I'll turn it back over to Ms. Wolf.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Brenda.
Okay, so now we get to the part that we've been waiting for. We are going to take questions from our parents. And our first question is from a number of parents and students. What are the metrics and criteria you will use to determine when to reopen schools? And when do you think you will return to in-person learning? Are you waiting for a vaccine, or can you open schools now? And that question is for either Derek or Essie, whichever one wants to take it.
So I'll open up and I'll pass it over to my colleague Essie and my colleague Janet to talk a little more. So we are closely following the health data in our county and in our state and watching national trends. What we're seeing right now is a uptick in the number of cases in our county over the last 14 days. If I'm reading the data correctly, we've been on an increase for the last 14 days of COVID positive cases. That doesn't mean we're not planning for moving forward to support our kids in an in-person learning model when it is safe. But at the end of the day, the first thing we have to do is to make sure that our students and our staff remain safe if they're going to come into our school buildings. So I'll turn it over to Essie to talk a little bit more about some of the safety protocols that we're envisioning, as well as some of the metrics moving forward.
Thank you. I'm Essie McGuire. I'm the Associate Superintendent for Operations. I'm happy to talk about this a little bit more. As Derek was saying, there are multiple points that we are looking at and following in consultation with our public health colleagues. I know often folks think or hope, we all would hope there might be one answer or one number that we're looking at, but it's really a multiple set of factors. There's issues around some of the metrics we look at include the number of cases, but also the number of cases per 100,000 people, the rates of positivity. And we really look to our public health experts around what metrics we should be looking at and their assessment of how those numbers are faring and what the trends tell us. So we're in very close consultation with them, and we appreciate that. And we really do also look at metrics and measurements that are put out by the federal level with the CDC, as well as the state level and the Maryland Department of Health. And then again, certainly our local health officials with our Department of Health and Human Services. And each agency brings their perspective, but also their information that they can bring to that discussion. And again, we look at all of those together. So that's really the way that we are working with the health officials to have that picture of what the conditions tell us we should do in terms of returning to school with whatever in-person activities we can support. And what we do know is that as we come back and in whatever fashion we do have students in school, for all of our staff and students, we have very robust safety practices that we are planning and that we have in place even right now. We are ordering extensive quantities of masks, face coverings of a whole range of types so that folks can have the type of face covering they need for the work that they're doing. We're looking at some of the more extensive coverings as well in terms of face shields, face coverings where there's transparency in the middle so that individuals who may need to be able to see someone's mouth moving in order to understand them, that they would have that capability as well. So there's just really a wide range of materials that we're looking at, but certainly those basics are covered in terms of again, face coverings, hand sanitizing, multiple kinds of hand sanitizer stations that we can have at different places in the building. And then we're really working also to provide signage to help remind people what those practices are and how they can maintain that distancing within the building. When we do come back, we're going to be looking very carefully at what the metrics tell us we should be implementing in terms of capacity, so that we won't be overfilling our buildings and we'll be able to maintain the space that the experts tell us we should. So those are some of the practices we'll have in place.
Okay, thank you. The next question was submitted via YouTube, and it's for Derek. It's a question I had myself. How old were the students who answered the survey?
So the students were all in secondary level. So they're grades 6 through grade 12.
Okay. The next question again comes from a number of different parents. And this question will be for Derek and Essie again. If health metrics allow and neighboring school districts return to in-person learning without COVID outbreaks, would MCPS consider returning to in-person prior to January 2021?
So as we said from the outset, we're exploring an opportunity to get students back as soon as possible, but we have to have the caveat, it has to be safe for our students to come back, and it has to meet the metrics of our county, our specific local data. While other counties close by might have fewer number of cases, and we're experiencing our own set of COVID cases. So we have to be matching with what's in front of us. Essie, do you have anything to add?
No, just that certainly we are communicating with all of our neighboring jurisdictions and other jurisdictions because we all want to learn from each other and we can share information, but we all do know that we have our very unique circumstances that we have to manage within our own counties as well. So we want to be mindful of things we can learn from each other, but have to start the measurements here at home.
Okay, thank you. The next question again comes from several different parents. And this question is again for Derek or Essie. How can PTAs support our schools in making these preparations for in-person learning?
So I think our PTAs are going to be great voices. They already represent members of our design teams as we're building out strategies for return to in-person. Their membership has given us great input, seeing from a lens that's not just a school system lens, but really how the community will experience this, how they will react. So they have been great partners, and we'll continue to rely on them. And I'll turn it over to Everett Davis to talk a little bit about how he's engaging the FEAT group around return to instruction.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Yes, so we do have what's called another acronym. I seem to be the land of acronyms this evening, the Family Engagement Advisory Team, also known as the FEAT. And they are a group of outstanding parents, I'll say, who've been wonderful in supporting our efforts. It's a two-way communication group of parents, really of those who don't typically have a seat, if you will, at the table. They might be our informal leaders within our communities, and they come together on a monthly basis for the purpose of advising our senior leadership team as well as our superintendent. And as I said, it is a two-way communication where different challenges, initiatives, if we're seeking feedback from them, but they also bring challenges and concerns to us as well. So that's just one of many ways that we are seeking to better engage our communities, especially as we navigate the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Again, a question that was asked by several parents. When will parents be notified about the current status of reopening? And when can parents expect to get some concrete information about what school will look like in February of 2021?
So we promise to notify parents as soon as possible, as soon as we get all the details put together so that parents can have a good understanding about what's coming up and what decision they want to make. One of the things we know is that some parents are going to decide to keep their child in virtual learning. We want to make sure that when we present that option, the parents truly understand what each experience will be like. So they should look forward for conversations in the coming weeks.
Okay, next question is from YouTube. Are there specific reopening metrics you could share right now? And this question is for, let's try Essie.
So I'm happy to share some of the data points that, our state and federal agencies have put out. And really, there are two primary metrics that those agencies are looking at. The first is the positivity rate, and that is again what the state, both the governor and the state superintendent for education came out to say that if a jurisdiction has a positivity rate of less than 5%, then they can consider some kinds of reopening. So that's sort of the first marker that the state put in place. The second marker the state put forward is if you're in that less than 5% positivity rate, and Montgomery County has been, right now we're right around 3 as of today's statistics from the county government's dashboard, which is a really helpful site. I encourage people to go look at the Montgomery County dashboard. It's got just a lot of really great statistics and also some good graphs that are easy to look at. But at any rate, that's where you can find that information. And the second marker that the state put forward is really about the number of cases per 100,000 people. And there they're looking at a range. And they said that if you're in the range between, say, 5 and 15 cases per 100,000 people, then you could think about reopening to varying degrees. So if you were below 5, then you can reopen more. If you're really pushing more towards 15, you want to be very, very limited, if at all, and consider that carefully. So that's that range. And that's where Montgomery County is. We have been a little bit higher. And as Derek said, we are continuing to tick up a little bit. So the numbers there have been more in the 10, even higher than 10 range. So we are, again, looking at those trends. It's not a minute-to-minute experience. And again, also, those are some of the metrics. The CDC put out metrics that are similar, but also take into account other factors. And again, we're working very closely with our local officials as well to really understand how they see those dynamics playing out at the local level, because that's the piece that we most need to be attentive to in consultation with them.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying not to ask questions, but I think the question that parents really want to know is, we seem to be in the range. Why don't we reopen?
So that's an important question, because we're looking at all the pieces together. We're looking at the data trends. We're talking with our health officials, and we're putting together the plan in place. And so over the next couple of weeks, you'll hear about what our plan is for a future reopening. But I think in the short term, we're really focusing on making sure we're getting virtual learning right, because we know that we're in that now, and designing a plan for reopening that is sustainable. What we don't want to do is reopen for a short period of time only to see the numbers tick up higher and we're back in virtual learning, giving kids another disruptive experience. So again, we're looking for opportunities to bring students back, but we have to be smart about it and we have to be safe about it.
Okay, our next question was on YouTube. It was received in Spanish. So this is the translation. When we open the schools, will parents have the option of online or hybrid? So this question is for Derek or Essie.
So I'll ask Janet for this one. Janet Wilson, please.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much, Derek, for that question. Yes, we will be asking parents in the questionnaire to select either the hybrid model or virtual only model. We hope that when we are asking parents to make the selection, that we will be able to give them some information that will help them know exactly what they're signing up for when they select a virtual only. It'll be very similar to the experience that students have right now. And then the hybrid model, we certainly are working diligently to create different types of hybrid models, because the metrics may determine at some point that we can bring in more students and then sometimes less students. So we have to be able to pivot, if you will, given the health conditions, from a hybrid experience back to a virtual if necessary, based on what might be happening in individual schools, in concert, of course, with our health department. Parents will have the choice. And we do hope to get a questionnaire out soon so that parents can make that choice.
Okay, I'm going to take a little liberty here again and ask you, when you say soon, do you have a time frame in mind?
We would like to, we actually are creating that timeline now, and we're looking at mid-November to the beginning of December for that parent questionnaire.
Okay. Next question is from Elizabeth, who's a parent. When can you start allowing the youngest learners and children with special needs into the building? Can you offer services like speech and occupational therapy in person? I'm thinking that's maybe for who? Kevin? Janet? Essie? Who wants to take it?
Hello, I'm happy to take it. Good evening. My name is Kevin Lowndes. I'm the Associate Superintendent for Special Education. So we are looking to go back into school when the metrics that Essie and Derek talked about are set and everyone else goes back to school. But I do want to say that we are offering speech and other related services online, and that if you're having a difficult time with that, I suggest that you contact either the teacher or the case manager to discuss how to more effectively receive your speech services. But as soon as everyone else is able to go into schools and we start bringing students in, we'll be looking at bringing our related services into the buildings as well.
Okay, next question comes from Delia, a parent. What are the plans for the resumption of in-person education for autism programs, including high-functioning autism? Kevin, would you like to try that again?
Sure. Can you just, can I hear the question one more time, please?
What are the plans for the resumption of in-person education for autism programs, including high-functioning autism?
So we are right now in the process of planning our going back to school and making sure that we can keep our students safe and make sure that we can keep our staff safe. So we're in the process of looking at how we would bring our students in, how we would provide the PPE, but the timeline actually is the same timeline that Derek Turner and Essie talked about for all other students. But I do want you to know that we're working very closely with Essie in talking about the PPE, because we do know that some of our students will need some close distancing with faculty members in order to be able to access the curriculum and the learning. And so we're looking at the CDC guidelines for direct care providers, and we're making sure that we're going to be prepared when we bring our students and staff into buildings.
Okay, next question came from YouTube. Reopening should also be contingent on whether facilities are ready. What's the status of reviewing air circulation systems, making sure kids and teachers are able to frequently wash hands, etc.? Essie, can you take that?
Yes, I can, definitely. So we are actively working through all of those measures, and the air filtration is a really important piece, and we are moving through that. The industry and other experts have put out new standards for air circulation within that meet the needs of the current air quality for COVID to reduce the transmission of COVID. And so we are absolutely moving through all of our schools to do that work. Sometimes it's an easy fix, and it really depends on the kind of system. Some of those are going to be more intricate, but again, we're going through those, and we absolutely are attentive to that work. It includes filters, but it also includes some modifications to how the systems run to allow that air filtration to happen more frequently and exchange the air in the building more frequently, again, according to industry standards. So we're doing that. And again, we are also delivering supplies to our schools so that they have on hand, ready to go, the different hand sanitizing stations, again, personal safety measures for the face coverings and other materials and supplies. So those deliveries are ongoing, and our purchasing is ongoing as well, to be sure that we have the supply needed to carry us through the year.
Okay, next question is from a parent. Is MCPS able to allow Thomas Edison High School students in certain programs to attend their classes in person? Janet or Essie, either one of you. Hello?
Ms. Wolf, I'm going to ask if you could repeat the question for me. I picked up Thomas Edison, but I think I had a little drop in signal.
Not a problem. Is MCPS able to allow Thomas Edison High School students in certain programs to attend their classes there in person?
That's an excellent question. It dawned on me in my last answer, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Janet Wilson, the Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Schools. That certainly is our goal because we certainly know that many of our CTE classes have hours that students have to accrue in preparation for their credentialing exams. We will be considering them in the roadmap, if you will, of bringing students in. It's the same situation, if you will, in context that Derek and Essie have been describing. It's a not yet, but we certainly know that that is a priority in terms of readiness for those students to be college and career ready. And they will be a priority in our in the high school delivery as in our plan. It's an excellent question.
So will they be brought back in, as you are talking about bringing in groups of children, small groups, would they be brought back in with those early groups or what?
Our design teams, our recovery design teams have noted them in the high school planning as a group that we definitely need to fold in. And again, when we think about the high schools and we think about the metrics, there could possibly be a time when metrics would indicate that we could bring in certain groups of students at the high school level up to a certain percentage. Just as we're thinking about our seniors and also in particular, our ninth graders who may not be on track for graduation at the end of the first quarter. That's all data that we're looking at and working towards creating timelines around. In addition, again, to our seniors, because we know how vitally important it is for their graduation to be sure that they are on track and pacing as they should.
Okay, the next question again was submitted by several different people. How are you taking evidence from other school districts around the country that have opened into your own decision-making in regards to reopening? And that question is for Derek.
No, thank you. That's a great question. We've had multiple conversations with other jurisdictions who have already taken the next step to go to in-person and seen where they've had success and where they are seeing struggles. What we're learning is that there are unintended consequences to every single decision there is, and that there are unexpected things that people you never account for. And so we're taking those things, especially around how making sure technology is working properly to make virtual learning work and in-person learning work. Some of those tools and techniques to make sure that we're applying them to our strategy for in-person. What we know is that when we do come back, that eventual return, it's going to be bumpy those first few weeks or months. We can never account for every situation, and every community is unique. So we are asking that people be patient with us and extend grace, especially to our teachers who are doing just a yeoman's work to make virtual learning happen, and as they transition back. So we're learning a lot, but we won't have all the answers, but we know that we'll still have to move forward even without all the answers.
Okay, next question is from YouTube, and it's for Janet. Will there be any changes to the virtual format for students who don't learn well online?
That's an excellent question. We are right now reevaluating our elementary schedule. We have heard feedback from a number of groups about maybe the student experience as well as the teacher's experience at the elementary level. I have heard quite a lot less about the impact at the secondary level for our students. Their executive functioning, if you will, their ability to do independent work, their ability to reach out to teachers as needed seems to be in place, and I think improving over time. I think when we think about that question, very often it's about our primary students. and that's the support that they need. And we know that many students have to retrieve that video lesson later on in the day because they may not have the support. They may be in a childcare setting, and they have to retrieve that later. That is something that we're continually monitoring. And the answer to that is, as soon as we can offer some type of a support model safely inside of our schools, we will be looking at the data, what our schools indicate to us are their concerns in the way of their learners, and creating those types of interventions for those students.
Okay, but I'm not sure that really answered the question. Let me see. It sort of changes to the virtual format. What can we do right now for the students who aren't doing very well with online learning?
I encourage that for students who are not, that the parents reach out to the school, because we do have teachers in our school who are not necessarily assigned to classrooms. We have our paraprofessionals who do a great job supporting our students. If we know who they are, we can certainly build in intentional supports during the virtual space to offer what the students need.
Okay, the next question is from Delia, a parent. It's for Janet also. How will schools ensure that students are able to catch up academically once in-person schooling resumes?
That's an excellent question. Certainly, our teachers are first and foremost in the seat of knowing where students have been most impacted. As the board knows, on October the 27th, we'll be talking a little bit about our diagnostic assessments that we did in September. The beauty of MCPS is that we won't, though, rely just on those diagnostics. We will be looking at a wealth of data that we have on all of our students, winding back to our current kindergarten students to make some determinations about where we're seeing the greatest learning loss. The MAP is the single assessment that we gave in September, and it does provide a wealth of information on where students are relative to the state standards. But it's that engagement every day that our teachers see and know in terms of where students should be performing and where they actually are performing that will give us the greatest information on providing interventions for our students. And we do have CARES tutoring going on right now. Any parent who feels they need additional support, I would request that you reach out to the school and ask for additional information on what kinds of interventions and tutoring that we can give your student outside of the school day, because it is available.
Okay, I have a technical issue here I'm hoping someone can help us with. You posted in the chat where to find the Spanish version of this, but you posted it in English. So if you don't read English, our Spanish-speaking community is having a difficult time figuring out where to go find this. Can somebody take a look at that for us, please? Thank you. Let me see. The next question is from YouTube. It's for Derek. Will teachers be able to decide whether they're comfortable teaching in person?
So that's an important question, and one we're hearing regularly from our staff. What we're trying to do is match the health and safety needs of our staff, and also making sure that we are supporting in-person learning when we eventually get to it. There's a process currently in place that's always been in place around the ADA, which is American with Disabilities Act, that sets out a framework for accommodations if you're unable to return to work or you need an accommodation regarding work. And what we know is that with COVID-19, there are some specific accommodations that the guidelines lay out around age or health conditions where they recommend that people do not come back to in-person spaces that can't be physically distanced, where we can't guarantee that spacing and those health measures. So we're looking at that as a tool to understand what our staff needs. It is a problem-solving mechanism. It is when a staff member submits their form, they work with a MCPS central office staff member to really work around what that perfect accommodation is for that staff member. There are also two other tools. There's the Family Medical Leave Act, which is also a tool for families and staff members who have concerns about a potential return to in-person. And then there is another acronym that is going to be beyond me that is also related to COVID, a Family Leave Act that's specifically COVID related that expires in late December, that also provides some accommodations for and leave for families who are differently impacted by COVID-19. So all of those measures are on the table, and we will work with every single staff member to make sure that we are hearing their concerns.
Okay, thank you. Question from YouTube for Janet again. Have you looked into the effects of this much screen time for our youngest learners?
Yes, from the get-go, from the start, Ms. Wolf, this was a consideration. We did looked into the research specific to screen time, and I do have to differentiate the difference between the interactive screen time that we are providing versus screen time that we typically think of when we are watching television. That's why the interaction is so critically important, and why we want students to the fullest degree possible to turn their cameras on and be interacting with others during the lesson. However, that is one of the things that we're balancing in terms of our considerations around the elementary schedule, is the impacts on the screen time of our students, and how we might create more asynchronous opportunities for students and provide support for families to do those. So that is a primary consideration.
Okay. Next question is from Joanne, a parent. What has the state grant money been spent on? I don't know whether Derek is the best person for that, or Essie.
So it's a great combination between all of us. We've gotten a great investment from the federal government and from our state that's gone to technology investments. The devices that are in every child's hand, the MiFi devices that we've been able to distribute, those are all a function of investment through the CARES Act. And then I will turn it over to Dr. Wilson to talk about the investment through tutoring.
Yes, as Derek said, a significant amount of money came in for the technology. And again, the technology is critical because it is, in this environment, going to be able to provide us the ability to create interventions for students. Mm-hmm. Although they're virtual right now, and we would prefer an in-person intervention, again, we're not there yet. But a significant portion of the intervention money helped us stand up a robust summer program where we had over 35,000 students participate, over 85,000 offerings to keep our students engaged over the summer. 85,000 seats, many offerings across the spectrum of great interest-based and also academic opportunities for our students. The remaining part of the money that we got for tutoring will be utilized throughout the fall to provide tutoring at every level. We have teacher leaders in place who are helping to stand up those programs and identify students and do some outreach to families. The district, however, is committed to continuing the tutoring beyond that time because our CARES money does have to be spent by the end of December, but we are committed to continuing that tutoring on through the spring semester.
Okay.
shout out to just the technology piece. I think it's really important that we're doing what other communities are struggling to do right now. And I think Mr. Cevernini and his team, that other counties are waiting for devices to come in. And we've been able to distribute a device to every student and every staff member. There are communities that are on wait lists that won't get a device until January. And because of their strategic investment, we've been able to ensure that gap is closed. Is it perfect? No, but I think we're leaps and bounds ahead of our peers.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from a student, and this is for you, Derek. Do you endorse large group gatherings such as the FOCO photo shoot where unmasked seniors gathered?
So here's what we know, that our kids have been cooped up for months and months on end, and it is stressful, and they need to spend time with their friends. And what we're asking is that kids are going to need to be responsible. They need to wear masks. They need to socially distance when they can, and really think about the group size and make sure that it's appropriate. We're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be a slip up. You don't have a mask. There's 11 people or 12 people, but we know that our kids are good people and are focused and are smart and are going to do the right thing and are always committed to doing the right thing at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from a parent. It's for Janet. Can you provide students more textbooks to reduce screen time?
That's an excellent question. I think any parent who has not received a textbook, some of our schools did provide textbooks and other workbooks and materials. If parents see a need and would like to have a textbook, that would be a connection with the school to request that. We certainly want to provision our students with the resources that they need to learn. We do have to be mindful, though, that the assessments and so forth come through our virtual platform. But certainly students can utilize those textbooks to complete assignments when there is an alignment between what the teacher is doing and what the student needs to do in their classroom.
Okay, the next question is from Jennifer, and it's also for Janet. Is it developmentally appropriate for children in the younger elementary grades to be on the computer for the same amount of time as older children?
Again, that's an excellent question. It is very much developmental, and some students handle it better than others. We encourage parents of very young children in particular to allow their students to take breaks as they see they need them. That, again, is the reason that we record the lessons, so that if a student has reached a point where they're just not able to engage meaningfully, or it becomes a struggle in the home, we invite them to disengage and re-engage later with the pre-recorded video.
Thank you. The next question is from YouTube. Is tutoring funding available also for students who should have had enrichment opportunities which have been canceled? I'm not sure who's the best person to handle that one, but feel free to jump in.
I think that's probably mine. And could you repeat that one more time, the enrichment piece, Ms. Wolf?
Is tutoring funding available also for students who should have had enrichment opportunities which have been canceled?
The tutoring money is available to all students. We are striving to set up a program in every school. So again, I would encourage that parent to reach out to the child's teacher or the principal to explore what the opportunities are in that particular school.
Okay, thank you. Question from Allison, a parent. This question is also for you, Janet. How is distance learning looking as far as equity goes? Do we have statistics on who is attending class?
We do. As you know, Ms. Wolf, we provide by the numbers reports at every board meeting to our community. We have been looking very closely at students who are not engaged, and we take this by week increments. Our most recent number that was reported to the board was 1,510 students that we didn't see engaged a couple of weeks ago, and I'm happy to say that that number has decreased. We had a new report today in preparation for the upcoming board meeting. But what we also learned from that new report is we had a number of elementary students on it, and what we've come to find out is those elementary students are actually enrolled with us, but receiving only speech and language services. So they should have never been connecting to the system. So we're happy to say that we're going to be able to take that number down even further. But what we're doing right now is we're looking at every one of those students by school. Our school directors are engaged with our schools. And by the next board meeting, we will have summary data on what we find for each and every one of the names on our list and the faces that go with it to know the story of what we're doing, because they're not seen on our platform, but I know that the well-being teams are engaging with the families. So we're taking the time now to get that picture to present to the board.
Thank you. The next question, and I don't really want to mess up anybody's name, is from Chahandasi, a parent. This is also for you, Janet. How much autonomy do different classroom schools have in structuring virtual learning versus what gets structured by MCPS?
That's an excellent question. We certainly have guidelines from MSDE. We have to have an average of 3.5 hours a day. That's a K to 12 statistic in terms of what we provide to our students, 180 days and 6 hours of instruction a day. We put out scheduled templates for our principals, and they were sample schedules because we know that our principals know their communities best. So for instance, a sample schedule may have had reading instruction in the morning and math instruction in the afternoon. And what I know is some of our elementary schools are providing both in the morning and they're doing other activities in the afternoon. So the most important thing is that they provide the equitable minutes across the schedule. But where those minutes are for each content area is certainly up to the school, along with their instructional leadership team and their engagement with their community on what makes the most sense for the community.
Okay, next question is from a parent. Why are students still getting election day off? And why are there 2 half days leading up to Thanksgiving? So, Essie, can you handle that?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So, so clearly, Election Day has been a day that schools have been required to be closed for quite some time, many years, because in a normal year, typical year, most of our facilities are used for polling. This year, clearly, that is not the case, but we actually do have all of our high schools are being used for polling. And while we do not have students in our building on a regular basis, it is still a time that the system needs to be able to focus on that, as well as afford our employees the ability to observe their voting and have that day available to that. It is still a system impact to have all of our high schools taken up with voting. And certainly, again, it is still a requirement in state law that the school system be closed on Election Day. The half days leading up to Thanksgiving are a time when we always traditionally have scheduled 2 half days in the fall to allow time for teachers and parents to have conferences together and to talk together about student progress. Previously, those days had typically been aligned earlier in November. However, because of the virtual schedule, because we were hearing from parents and from schools and school leadership that the choppiness of the days and having days off and then half days in the middle of the term was really causing some difficulties. We were hearing that folks wanted more continuity in the weeks in November. So we did recommend, and the board agreed to shift those 2 half days to the week of Thanksgiving so that all of the half day time for conferences could be aligned with a week that already has disruption and will have changes in schedule. It will minimize the number of times that schedules are impacted in the virtual environment in those few weeks in November, and it will hopefully provide a little bit more of a flexible time leading up to the holiday break for families to take advantage of, and for, again, for teachers and families to find time to flexibly meet the scheduling needs that they may have.
Okay, the next question is from a parent. There is a PSAT being offered by the College Board on January 26, 2021. Is MCPS considering administering it? Essie or Janet?
So we have been working very closely with the College Board and as folks know, have been able to offer the SAT in a number of instances this fall. And so we're going to continue to look for opportunities and to evaluate, again, whether and how much we are able to support. We know that these opportunities are very important to our students, and we want to offer what we can. So we're going to continue to work with the College Board and continue to work with our local health officials to determine if that will be possible.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from a parent, and this question is for Janet. At the beginning of distance learning, MCPS had said lessons classes would be recorded and the videos posted for 3 days so students can have access to them if they need to. But it seems very few teachers are actually posting these videos. Is there a reason the videos aren't always being made available?
I am unaware of that, and I would say that if that is the case, that when that occurs, it's extremely important to either reach out to the teacher or the principal to make them aware that the video that was to be recorded for retrieval later isn't available to them. It could be that it is recorded and maybe not out present where it should be, but we need to make sure that we do have that resource for our students, given that we have many different situations in our homes where we do need to have the retrieval ability later on. So I would say reach out to the school if that is the case.
Is this something that the board can get an update on at the next board meeting? Because I do think that's important.
I'm going to defer that question to Pete in terms of the ability for the technologies to help us understand that, if he's still on the call.
Yes, Dr. Wilson, we certainly can give an update on the amount of Zoom calls or Zoom meetings, classes that were held this week and things like that. So we can give those numbers and quantities next board meeting for sure.
Okay, the next question is from YouTube. What prep work are you doing with teachers who may be afraid to return to in-person work? The question could be for Janet, or it could be, I guess, for Janet, right?
I think the prep work for in-person learning with regard to safety, I think that would certainly be most likely Essie. If it's in person, in terms of the instructional delivery, that will be very much dependent upon the model that we stand up, whether when we bring certain groups of students in, the design teams have determined there's different types of instructional delivery models that we might be providing. We could be providing direct instruction, just like teachers always do in a brick and mortar, or it could be more of a support model where we have some teachers and some paraprofessionals who are really assisting our students to get back online and make sure that they are involved when we don't see that they're involved at home. But if it's from the safety standpoint, I would invite Essie to chime in there.
And just before we get to the safety piece, I just think that mental health and wellness is also a part of this.
Absolutely.
We've stood up a staff website for Be Well 365 that now applies to staff, really thinking about resources, because the mental and physical health of our staff is going to be critical. They have dealt with a lot of stress. Again, as just like our students, this transition hasn't been easy for our staff members. From the school building to central office, people have been working additional hours to make things work, to learn the new tools, to make sure that kids are experiencing something that closely resembles, as possible, that traditional learning experience. So we want to be there for our staff when they have questions, when they have concerns. EAP is ready on standby, but we've also been doing this great series called Waymaking that's really talking about the student and staff mental health and wellness, and mindful moments where it's just a moment to relax. It's led by a staff member, how to really recenter yourself with all the crazy that's going on in our world around us, and how to adjust to it.
Okay, thank you. Question from several parents. Again, this question is for Janet. Will you consider allowing the semester to be pass-fail instead of graded?
We have, certainly that's the board's prerogative at any time, but we do have been monitoring through our grading and reporting committee input and feedback from our teachers. This has not risen really to a level where we've had to make a recommendation. We did make some adjustments at the elementary level in terms of interim reporting, and also not providing specific grades the first 9 weeks. We've already determined that just because we're focusing on the English language arts, math delivery, and a new curriculum. But we will certainly entertain that as needs arise. But it's been a little quiet on that front in terms of making grade changes or changes to our practices around grading.
Okay. Next question is from a parent. This question is for Kevin. How are you supporting special education students right now?
Thank you very much for the question. So the way we're supporting special education students is that at first in September, parents should have received a letter from the student's case manager, their sons and daughters' case manager, about the services that they were going to receive in the virtual format. And it should have talked about the number of times that they would receive the services and what the services should look like. By October, October 2nd, they should have also gotten a contact from the case manager to go over the plan that they received in the mail or by email, and discussed how it was going and see whether there needed to be any adjustments, and to see whether the related services were being provided in a way that their sons and daughters were able to access them.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Hillary, a parent. Why was the new Parent View Synergy system implemented? What specifically is better about it compared to the last two parent portals?
So the reason why the system was implemented is severalfold. The old system, a lot of the information that parents and students were asking for was not there on the old system. It was also not as safe and private as it needed to be, which was a real big issue there, that to ensure safety and privacy of student data and parent data, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure that the new system had those features in it.
Okay. I think we're getting down to, I think we can take one more question. Will an update be made to Parent View to allow partners to CC on emails with a student's teacher?
Ms. Wolf, thank you for that question, and that is a great idea. I will certainly look into that and find out. We are in very close contact with the company, the vendor that actually does Parent View. So we will find that out if that's something we could activate immediately or if that's a feature that they can build in for future enhancements.
Okay, thank you. I think we've answered quite a few questions this evening to the best of our ability. I want to thank the many community members who participated in this conversation. And now I want to give my fellow board members an opportunity to share any final thoughts or comments they have. And I want everyone to know we appreciate hearing from you. This really informs our work. So I'm going to start with Ms. Mandrowski. Please jump right in, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here and answering parents' questions tonight. I do know that there's questions from several parents about seniors and how we're planning on looking at addressing that since they're missing out on so much. So maybe that's something we could get a little information about at the next board meeting. I'm sure there are many other questions that haven't had a chance to be answered, but I'm assuming that if people submitted questions and they weren't answered yet, that we'll be responding to them.
Yes, that is our current plan. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I just know that there still feels like, people want more specifics, and that we don't have that right now. So the more we can do to communicate as quickly as we can, as soon as we know things, I think will be really helpful. So this was a good meeting. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Silvestri.
Thank you so much. Ms. Wolf, you did a fantastic job keeping us on track and moderating. I just wanted to emphasize that what was talked about in the beginning. So we are planning for second semester, and we are hoping to bring back some small groups before second semester. However, everything is contingent on keeping the COVID rates under control. Right now, we could bring back smaller groups, and that's under discussion. And please, staff, correct me if I'm wrong. And that the planning is underway. There's decisions to be made, but the planning is underway for both small groups. Well, decisions are being made about small groups. Let me clarify that. But if the rates continue to increase, that's going to become a big problem for all that planning. So we are planning for second semester with giving options to parents, but folks, we got to keep the rates down in order for any of this to happen. So thank you for participating. This is very difficult for teachers and families and kids. Please reach out to your teachers and principals and ask for help if you need it. And please communicate with your Board of Education as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
And Mr. Asante.
Yes, I want to say thank you to everyone who answered questions today. I know virtual learning is something that we're all adapting to, and it's something that we've all come up with many questions about. So thank you for your clear answers tonight. I did want to mention, echoing something that was mentioned earlier about recording classrooms. I do know that that's a concern I've heard from a lot of students about teachers not recording lessons. So that's hopefully something that we can look into. But thank you, everyone who tuned in. Thank you for students, families, teachers, everyone for adapting to virtual learning. And I know it's something that we're all working through together.
And so I finally want to say that, yes, we are all in this together, and we're doing all that we can to ensure that our students succeed. I also want to thank everyone from MCPS who participated tonight and stood up and answered very difficult questions, and questions that we know did not always provide a satisfactory answer. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you again to the community. Everyone have a good night.